Hey everyone, this is a quick webinar to show you how new album grouping functionality works in MusicCat. So right now I'm signed in as an admin. I'm working on a local development instance of the Capital City Records MusicCat collection. And to look at album groupings, I'm going to go to configuration. And you'll see here on the right a set of drop-down menus for album groups display, album groups categories setup, and then two configure custom album group options. So I'm going to talk through the first two of these because you can really leverage a lot of functionality pretty quickly with those, and then I'll show you some of what's possible with these custom album groupings, which are the second two categories there. So I'm going to click on album groups display, and we'll see that this link genre labels to genre group page is checked by default. So this is true on all of your sites right now. This means that when you're on an album page and you see the genre displayed there, you can now click on those, and that takes you to a page that's populated by a list of all the albums in whatever genre you just clicked on. So just leave that clicked. We think it's good functionality. And here I'm going to go ahead and click on display grouping interface on non-mobile pages that list albums. And this is where I'm going to be able to set up how links to groupings work on my website. So you'll see that by default, group by genre and group by release date year are checked. And so I'm just going to show you what that looks like if I just sort of go with the default here. A note about this use primary genre only. What this means is that now artists have the option to select up to 3 genres. If you click the default here, it'll mean that their album only shows up in lists for their primary genre. By default, this is not selected, and so albums will show up in any genre that the artists have identified for them. I'm going to just leave that not checked, and I'm just going to go ahead and save this new config. And so what's going to happen when I go to my main site is that now I'm going to see on the right here this group albums by genre and group albums by year. If I click on these, nothing is going to happen yet because I haven't configured how the grouping is actually working. I've just configured the display. So I'm going to go back and actually configure how my MusicCat site is going to grab data for these rounds. So I'm going to go to album group categories setup. And here I see for every option in the display category up here, there's a corresponding setup category down here. So I'm going to work with the genre and release date ones first. You'll notice that there's a reset button for all of these. What this reset button will do is grab your site's defaults and data. So for genre, it's going to grab the genre categories that you've got your site set up for. So I'm just going to go ahead and click reset. And these are all of the genres that Capital City Records uses for the site. So this looks pretty good to me. I'm just going to leave it there. And then I'm going to head down to release date years to show, and I'm going to click reset here, and it's going to go grab all of the release dates for albums that exist in my collection. In the left-hand column, this is the actual sort of data here. And then corresponding release date display titles on the right are going to, this is the text that's going to show up in lists on the public site. So you can edit this if you'd like to read something different. I have no idea why there's a 1917 album in here. It's a little weird. I'm just going to leave it there and kind of see what it is. So that's it to set up these categories. I'm going to go down and click Save New Configuration again. I'm going to go back to my site, and here are my groupings display, and I'm going to click on genre. Okay, and here we go. I have a list of genres at the top. If I scroll down, I see I've got all of the genres in my collection. Now the first thing I notice, and probably you notice, is blues and children are at the top here, and they're kind of sad. There's only 3 albums total for those 2 genres, and there are none for classical. Country looks a lot better, so I decided that like I don't really want folks to come and see this right off the bat. So I'm going to go back to my configuration, and I'm going to take Blues and Children and just move them kind of further down the list. Let's put them under rock here. And I'm going to go ahead and delete classical for now because I don't have any albums in that category. And then I'm going to save this config again. And then I can go back to my site, go back to genre. Okay, and this looks better to me. I've got some sort of fully populated genres as I scroll down. So that looks good. Let's see what grouping albums by year looks like. Okay, here we go. Here's our list. And just for fun, I'm going to go ahead and click on this 1917 releases and see. Oh, okay, interesting. Maybe there's a data problem here and I want to go back and check this out. I'm not going to do that right now, but this can be kind of a revealing way to see some of the data that's in your collection that maybe is a typo in this case, I would imagine. So cool. So that's just a really quick way to set a couple configs. But let's say I decided, well, I don't actually want to do the genre display. Oops, sorry about that. So I'll unclick that and I'll unclick the release date year. And instead I'm going to focus on the ones I haven't showed you yet. So we'll group by all of these other categories, by submission round, by alphabetical groups, by badge tag, and by spoken language. So I am going to go ahead and set up the categories set up for each of these sites. For each of these groupings. So here's my corresponding submission round categories, and I'm going to click reset and grab all of the round data from my site. And this looks pretty correct to me. I'm going to make a couple little copy edits here. Like this is the Edmonton Music Awards, so oops. I'm going to go ahead and type that in. I'm going to capitalize CCR. Oh, this is winter. Well, okay. This is also EMA. We'll just do it a little differently for now. And if I wanted, I could change the order so that first or more recent submissions were at the top. I'm just going to leave it as it is for now. You just want to make sure that the data in the left-hand column corresponds to the correct display in the right-hand column if you are rearranging things. Alphabetical blocks down here, this is the default. I'm just going to leave it as is, and it'll grab the first letter of album names and then badge tags to show. I'm going to click reset, and I know that I just have a single badge in my collection. It's the Edmonton Music Awards. Right now, only Capital City Records and Nashville Boombox are using badges. And so I'm going to get rid of, I just imagine this data is sort of extra stuff that librarians or musicians have entered in that I don't need here. But I really want to feature my Edmonton Music Award winners on the page, so I'm going to add this badge tag. And I'm going to go up and make sure right now this badge tag label just says badge. So what that means is on the nav on the main page, it'll just say badge. But what I want it to say is EMA for Edmonton Music Awards. So I'm going to change that. And then I'll go down to spoken language. Again, I'm going to click reset, and here are all of the languages that artists have identified for their albums in my collection, and this looks pretty good, and I expect that that's a pretty good order to list these in as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and save this. I'm just going to take one last look, so I'll have group by submission round, and maybe I'll change this label too to just say submission round. Group by alphabetical. So here we've got the title label, group by badge tag, we have EMA, and group by spoken language. So I'll save this config. I'll go back to my main site and see what I've got. Okay, submission round. Got this. Great. Here is a list of all of the submission rounds. They look like they're all here. So it's clear you could, if you just wanted to feature a more recent submission round, you could do that. You could just have a single submission round here just by deleting the data that you didn't want in the setup album grouping section. Let's see what titles look like. Great. This looks alphabetical to me. Cool. Let's see if my EMA worked. It did, and here I can see all of my badges. Just check and make sure all of the albums here have badges. They do. That looks great. And then language. English. Lots of English. A little bit of French. A little bit of Spanish. A little bit of Ukrainian. Okay, cool. So those are the sort of basic, more automated options that you've got in terms of album groupings. This custom album group functionality gives you a little more flexibility and control, but you kind of need to know how to dig into the data more deeply. So if any of you are interested in what's capable or what's possible here, just get in touch with me and I can help you set stuff out. I'm going to show you just one possible way you could use this tool right now, just so you have kind of an idea of what's possible here. So what I want to do is set up a album grouping by record label. So my group label here is going to be what appears on the main site. So I'm going to say labels. And then album variable, this is where it gets a little tricky. I know that record label is an album variable, so I'm going to go ahead and put it here. And I also know what some of the album labels in Capital City Records are. So I'm going to go ahead and type those in. Oops. So one of them's Oddball Records, possibly. I'm probably getting a little bit of this wrong, but I'll give you an idea here. Old Ugly is another record label. Each of these have about 3 albums in Capital City Records, I think. And then there's Music for Mavericks. And again, data on the left, and then how I want it to display on the right. And I should probably spell oddball correctly. There we go. Okay, this looks pretty good to me. I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm just going to make sure that my first custom grouping is also selected, and maybe I'll get rid of, let's say, language and alphabetical groups so that I don't have kind of a crazy amount of groupings on my home page. So I think I got that all. I'm going to click Save New Configuration. Go to my main site. And I'm going to click on Labels. See if we got this set up right. All right, yep. There's my Oddball records, my Old Ugly records, and my Music Mavericks records. So that's some of what you can do with the album grouping options that are now available in Musicat admin config. If you have any questions about this or want to explore ways that you could leverage the custom group setup, just get in touch with me and I'd be happy to help you all out. Okay, have a great day. Thanks.